Okay, welcome to the rescheduled Tuesday Times Roundtable, sponsored by Global Learning. And would you like to talk about that at all? Global Learning? Okay. So we had this very fortunate thing because we were supposed to have this talk on the normally scheduled time on Tuesdays, and it was rescheduled because of the hurricane. And because of that, it was supposed to be just Allison and I talking about the issue of child marriage. And because we got to reschedule it, we have the pleasure of actually being able to fit it in with our representative, Daisy Baez's schedule, so she can talk about the legislation that she filed. So I just want to give you a quick little background on child marriage in Florida. Just as far as how we got started, even thinking about this issue most recently. My name is Sandy Scalani. I'm the program director for the Initiative for Gender Violence Prevention with the Center for Women and Gender Studies. And back in May, the New York Times had an op-ed written by Nicholas Kristof called 11 Years Old, a Mom and Pushed to Marry Her Rapist. And it was a very large expose about the issue of child marriage in America. And it particularly focused on Florida. And I think it was really eye-opening for a lot of people, especially here in Florida. We just kind of thought we didn't really have that problem. We don't see it. We think maybe that's something that happens in the developing world. So it was really enlightening when in the article, it featured the story of Sherry Johnson, who is one of our main advocates now in the state to change this legislation. And Sherry Johnson is, she's a survivor of child marriage, and she was 11 years old when she was married to her 20-year-old rapist who was a member of her church. In the state of Florida, a girl under the age of 16, if she's pregnant, can get married to an adult if she's pregnant at any age. There's no age floor to that. So at 11, they were able to find somebody, a clerk, that was agreeing to marry them. So first she went to her mom. Her parents wanted her to get married, gave the approval, and searched for a clerk that would issue a marriage certificate. And so first they went to Tampa and they got rejected, they got denied, but then the clerk in Pinellas County actually issued the marriage certificate. So Sherry said that her family attended a conservative Pentecostal church and that other girls of similar age were also married to people of the church, to church elders. She was raped by a minister and a parishioner, and she had given birth at 10 years old. The judge approved the marriage to end the rape investigation, and he told her, quote, what we want is for you to get married. So according to the New York Times article, she had a terrible life, spending her childhood doing pretty much domestic work, taking care of the babies. It impacted her elementary school attendance. And in all, she had 9 children. And of course, the marriage didn't last, as they often don't in cases of child marriage. She said, they took the handcuffs from handcuffing him to handcuffing me by marrying me without me knowing what I was doing. So now Sherry is working together with us and helping to change the legislation in Florida so that we are not going to have child marriage be allowed for anybody under 18 years old. So after that article came out, we really, I contacted Representative Baez, and I think several organizations kind of came on board immediately and said, we have to do something about this. And so we all got together and formed a working group. The Florida Working Group to End Child Marriage includes organizations such as Unchained at Last, Human Rights Watch, FIU Center for Women and Gender Studies, the Jewish Women's Foundation of Greater Palm Beaches, Children's Rights Campaign, the Dolores Weaver Policy Center, the AHA Foundation, and Florida Now, and I think some others. We keep adding to the working group people that are really involved and engaged in making this legislation change. So that's a little bit of background. We're happy to have Representative Baez here, and I'm going to give the mic to Allison, my colleague, to introduce.
Hi, and thanks for everyone for coming out. First, we wanted to thank Eric Feldman, who's there in the corner, for being interested in this topic and giving us a platform to talk about this and record it and be able to spread it. So thank you very much for that. We'd also like to thank our director, Dr. Dorici. She's the director of the Center for Women's and Gender Studies. She's been supportive about this, for this initiative, I think since we've talked to her about it, kind of immediately was like, oh, we should make a Facebook and all of these other things. And without that kind of support, I don't think we'd be able to do this in a kind of professional capacity. It'd be more like a volunteer capacity. And then I'd also like to give a shout out to your legislative aide, Carol Molinares, because she's been really receptive and has been constantly making sure that communication is happening, building the working group. She's a Florida State University master's student, and she's been working as Representative Baez's legislative aide since 2017. And she previously worked with the House of Representative Minority Office under the policy chair, Representative Evan Jean. And I'd like to, before Representative Baez speaks, give her a little intro. So, not too long. Daisy J. Baez was born and raised in the area of Santo Domingo in the Dominican Republic until the age of 17. Her mother moved her and her sister to New York in search of a better life and opportunities for her family. In 1977, at the age of 19, Representative Baez joined the United States Army. She trained as a preventative medicine specialist and was assigned to the 15th Medical Battalion of the 1st Cavalry Division in Fort Hood. She was a very distinguished soldier, having obtained an Army Commendation Medal, 2 Army Achievement Medals, and many other awards and recognitions. While serving, and I think this is really impressive, she managed to obtain a degree in social work, and later she earned a master's degree in counseling education. Daisy started her professional career as a hospital social worker, eventually scaling the ranks of hospital administration to become a hospital vice president with several local and national healthcare companies. She currently works as a healthcare consultant, managing her own firm. Representative Baez was elected to the Florida House of Representatives in November 2016, becoming the first Dominican American ever elected to the Florida legislature, which is kind of crazy considering how close we are to the Caribbean. She was elected to represent District 114, which is your district, which includes the cities of Coral Gables, West Miami, South Miami, Pinecrest, and Cutler Bay. So there's a good chance she's some of your representatives. So, yeah, there you go. So we want to thank her and welcome her to speak on this topic.
Thank you. Thank you so much, both of you, for this wonderful introduction. Can I be heard on this? Am I okay? So I'll try to move around. Let me get my notes here. So I have to tell you, I am beyond delighted and excited to be part of this group and being able to talk about this issue, because it really, really is important to me. As you mentioned in the introduction, I am a woman, a minority, an immigrant. You know, it's really has been a privilege to get to this point, to be elected the first Dominican American to the Florida legislature. And one of my greatest achievements before that has been to be a social worker, to be someone who really, you know, understands the needs and the issues that plague our communities, and who I have been working since 1985 as a social worker to make sure that I connect individuals with resources, and then we find solutions, and we come to the table to find common ground solutions to many of our problems. Like many of you, when I read that article, I went like, whoa, really? I was really honestly surprised. I had no idea. I really had no understanding that we have such a problem in the state of Florida. Obviously, I do know a lot about the issues of sexual abuse, exploitation, and things of that nature. And by that fact, we know statistically that a child is more likely to be sexually abused by an adult male in a position of authority over them. That's a fact. So it is generally a parent, a teacher, a coach, a minister, a piano teacher, someone who who is an adult male in a position of some authority over that child, who generally sexually abuses or exploits or harasses that child. So here we are in Florida with a law that basically, if you start looking at the exceptions, it allows anyone to get married, right? And so we oftentimes find parents, and this may be in your more conservative, more religious communities, who still view pregnancy outside of the marriage as, a very, challenging and difficult thing for the family. And oftentimes the solution is, well, let's get married, marry these two people. So when we look at the exceptions that we have in the current law, that is often one of them. So you are giving basically authority to this rapist or this person in control to perpetuate the abuse. Like Sherry Johnson said, you took the handcuffs from my rapists and put them on me. We also know for a fact that children who get married and have children early are often destined to a life that is economically a great disadvantage to them. Generally, they do not finish school. Generally, they're trapped, if they work, on minimum wage, low skill jobs. Therefore, their opportunities for advancement, their opportunity for getting ahead is greatly diminished. So this child is being punished in so many ways. Now, I can tell you personally, I got married at the age of 27, right? So you think, and I already had a college degree, by the way, and thinking back on when I was still too young and stupid. So, think about a child that's 10, 12, 14 years old. Children at that age simply have not developed, both physically and emotionally in a way that allows them to make reasonable decisions about themselves. They also have not had enough life experience. And we also know, for those of you that study child development, that there's a natural progression to how you develop as a human being. And in your childhood, you have those developmental milestones, right? The age you walk, that you're able to, eat by yourself, that you're able to put two sentences together. Those things, just like you have the childhood milestones, you have other milestones through your life. And many of those take children, through their, younger years, through their teenage years, right? So how many of you have children here who are teenagers? Oh, well, sometimes you try to explain to them, like you should, and you realize that you're not connecting, right? Because they have their own way of thinking, their own way of viewing the world. And I have to tell you, I remember my great-grandmother telling my mother, oh my God, these kids, these days, the world's gonna go to hell. Then I heard my mother telling us, oh my God, these kids, these days, the world's gonna freeze over. And then I found myself saying the same thing about my daughter, like, oh my God, these kids, they don't listen. The world's gonna go to hell, Well, it hasn't, and it won't. Every generation has their challenges and has their way of thinking. Today we talk about the millennials, right? And I have a millennial at home, and I admit it's been a challenge for me because we think differently. So that just tells you that there are challenges, not only natural challenges to each person, but challenges within the context of who they are, where they're living, what kind of social and moral support they have, who's raising them, and all of that. So it's a far more complex and complicated issue than just marrying them off because they're pregnant. Now, when I was a hospital social worker and a child under the age of 18 came and had a positive pregnancy test, that was like a red flag. Like, oh my God, wait a minute, parents, where are they? You have a child here that's pregnant. It sent really warning signs. Because, okay, if they're like maybe 16, 17, you say, well, they're having sex and they're teenagers, whatever. But definitely, if we had a child at the age of 10 or 12, that was a call to the Department of Children and Families immediately. Immediately. I mean, that was just an absolute red flag at that moment. So, we all know that there's good and reasonable evidence to believe that any child at that age that's pregnant, you have to look into it. You really have to try to find out what's going on. So any questions so far? Okay. So let's talk about specifically about some other statistics and some of the other things that we're doing. I did file House Bill 71, which is called the End Child Marriage in Florida law. And I'm very, very proud of that, filing that law. How many of you know the process of getting a bill passed? Okay, awesome. So it's not that easy. Right now there's 120 state representatives. There's 120 of us. I represent district on 114th. And I, as a state representative, can file 6 bills. So people think that I get elected and I go to Tallahassee, I'm just gonna have all this stuff done. Well, it doesn't work that way. I can only file 6 bills. When a bill is filed, it goes through a process called bill drafting. So it goes through this department who actually puts it in language that meets legalese, and it then can be worded in a way that meets legal requirements. So then it goes to bill drafting, and then it comes out of bill drafting, referred to committees. There's about 35 committees in the Florida State Legislature. Education, finance, transportation, Health and Human Services, healthcare appropriations. They're just different committees. Then that bill comes out and is usually referred to 3 committees, right? Then the bill has to be heard by, the first committee is called the Committee of Reference. It has to be heard first in that Committee of Reference. If it's heard in that committee, then it goes to the second and the third. And once it passes all 3 committees, then it goes to the floor of the House of Representatives for a full vote. Well, do you think that's an automatic process? It's not. If the chairman of any of those committees chooses not to schedule my bill for hearing, he just killed my bill. It's that simple. My bill will never see the light of day. It will never be heard. One person has the power to end what we consider to be rightfully a good law in the state of Florida. That one person, because he's chair of that committee, by not scheduling, he just killed it. You have a question?
Yeah, I have a question following here. The bill is drafted, so the chair, like you just said, has to schedule an appointment.
No, not an appointment. They have to schedule the bill for a hearing. Those committees that I mentioned.
It's the bill that got drafted.
Correct.
So why wouldn't they have to, right?
Okay, well, there's various reasons why a bill is not heard in committee. So right now there's 120 state representatives, 79 are Republican, 41 are Democrats. That means that the Florida House of Representatives is overwhelmingly Republican. And that means that all of the committee chairs are Republicans. If they perceive a bill to be pro-democratic or too liberal or too whatever, they're not going to schedule it for a hearing. They control the agenda. That's how it works. Did that answer your question? You're baffled.
Yeah, because you got chosen, like that's the point of the draft. There's not there wouldn't even be a draft, right?
Well, One of the reasons why I'm really happy to be here today is because I do not miss an opportunity to explain to people how it really works. Because there's a total and complete disconnect between people and how the legislature works. People have this grandiose idea, and then the reality is totally, totally different. It doesn't work that way. Just the fact that you elected me means nothing to my ability to pass a bill. That's how it is. So,
Everybody is saying how it's so crazy that they're letting him get away with it, but before he can even do something, there's like Congress, there's a lot of people over him, but like you said, most of the people in government are Republican and they agree with what he's doing, so it just goes.
So there's another issue with that. How many of you here think that we should have good people in government? Probably everybody, right? Okay, well, I happen to believe that I'm good people, right? You know, I worked hard, I worked 3 jobs to put my kid through school, worked myself through college, served the United States Army. I mean, what a resume, right? So I'm good people, right? But this is the reality. The state legislature pays me to be a legislator. You know how much? $29,000 a year. That is the salary of a state representative in Florida. So, because technically it's a part-time job, because the legislature is technically open 60 days of the year, from January 7th through March 7th, 1 year, and then from March 7th through May 7th the other year. So the idea is I get $29,000 because I just go to Tallahassee for 60 days, right? Well, it doesn't work that way. These committees that I just mentioned, Health and Human Services, Appropriation, they meet for 6 weeks before the legislature. Like last week I was in Tallahassee attending committees. Legislature doesn't open until January. Now, if you have a regular job, you're a teacher, a firefighter, an accountant, and you tell your boss, hey, I'm going to run for state representative, what's the next thing he's going to say? Well, so what does that mean? When are you going to be here? Who's going to do your job? Normal people that live off a regular salary cannot run for office. It just cannot happen because most people have a mortgage, a car payment, kids that they want to save to send to college. They want to go on vacation every once in a while. So normal people, they have financial commitments and live like most of us, paycheck to paycheck, cannot afford to run for office. So who runs for office? Millionaires, business owners, lobbyists, lawyers. That's who runs for office. So if you look at, they've done studies about, for example, right now, the Florida legislature is full of millionaires. So normal people like me, I mean, I'm one of the lucky few, I have to tell you. And I'm not lucky few because I graduated my daughter from college. I have worked long enough in my profession that I can now do consulting work, which allows me some flexibility with my time. But guess what? Every day that I'm in Tallahassee, I don't work. That means I don't get paid, right? So those 60 days plus these 6 committee weeks, I don't earn an income. So that means I have to sometimes before committee or before session work, triple hard and Saturday and Sunday to make a living. And I know we're digressing a little bit from the subject, but I'm telling you this because when you think that just because we file this bill is going to happen, we have a long road ahead of us. And I want you to understand that it's not anything that we haven't done to move the, trust me when I tell you, we have tried to move mountains. We've have conference calls, we call people, we have social media, we are doing a variety of things to move this bill forward. And we fingers crossed, we believe something's going to happen because this is a topic that is, everybody from both sides, they're going like, really, what? So hopefully it will, it will move it forward. But now you understand that it's not that simple and that we just don't get to do what we want, and there's a real disconnect between people and who goes to the legislature. Yes?
I know about like the whole millionaire people being in government.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me interrupt you. Before that, remember. Let me add one more wrench to that. You know how much it takes to run just a state representative race right now? It's taking about between $500,000 and $750,000, right? Okay. A state, it's like a Senate race. State Senate race is costing $1 million. A representative of Congress is costing about $5 million, and a Senate race is costing about $10 million. Who has that kind of money? I mean, these normal people, these good people that you want to run for office, don't have that kind of money. We just don't have it. So we rely on the kindness of strangers, going around and telling people, can you donate $10 to my campaign? Can you donate $50 to my campaign? That's how we run for office, by begging and asking normal, everyday people to help us. But then again, most people aren't used to that. You ask them for money and they go like, what? You want me to give you money? Like, what's up with that? Lobbyists and attorneys and rich people, they're used to giving money because they can. And so, somebody goes and asks them for money and they go, oh, what? What's the maximum I can give you? $1,000. Oh, okay. $1,000 check, right? But when we normal people ask normal people to help us, it's not easy because it's just odd. It's not something, like people asking people for money, I don't know about that, right? So it's kind of strange. So I'm so sorry. She was first. I'm so sorry. I'll come back to you. And I'm sorry I interrupted you.
I know that they could probably pay their way into their position, but besides that, there's no there's no what's the word I'm looking for, requirement, because I just feel that a lot of people don't even know what they're doing.
Well, let me tell you that money that we're talking about, this millions of dollars. The problem is the money does make a difference. And I know there's a lot of movement now to get money out of politics. I get it. But we are not going to be able to get money out of politics until we have enough seats to be able to pass laws that get money out of politics. So until we get there, you have to have money in politics. You can't run a campaign without money. Why? Because it is not possible, humanly possible, for you. For example, my district has 150,000 people. I cannot go and knock on 150,000 doors. Who can do that? It's not possible. For me to have a conversation with 150,000 people and say, this is who I am, this is what I believe, this is what I would be good for your district. Okay, I cannot do that. So how else do you do that? By communicating with people. How do you communicate? You send mailers to their house, you do commercials, you do radio ads, and guess what? Miami, for example, is one of the most expensive media markets in the nation. So, to run one ad, it's like thousands and thousands of dollars. So that's why you need money, right? That's what you need, because if you don't have that kind of money to communicate your message, your opponent, he may be terrible, but he has $1 million in his bank account. He's going to run those ads that look really good, and he's with the kiddos, the family, and they're all smiling, and and people, unfortunately, don't do research, and they just go, oh my God, he looks so cute, Rian, and they vote for him. That's how people vote. Most people, that's how they vote. Or because, he's the Republican or the Democrat, and so they vote for the party. It's regardless of whether that is the right person for the job or not. So we have a long road ahead, guys. And I'm glad I'm here because you are younger. You're the next generation. These problems, it's in your lap. If you don't do something about this, I'm not quite sure what to tell you, because it's really vicious out there, and it's controlled by money, and when people like me who are very vocal and very open and very, about discussing this stuff, we get hammered back. I know, we all know that they have a campaign against me right now because I won't shut up, right? And I'm not gonna do it. I will continue to say what I need to say, and people like me get penalized by the establishment that controls everything. And I'm not being recorded, so. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay, Representative Baez, since the introduction of House Bill 71, what has been the feedback from your colleagues? More positive, more negative, or they're just undecided?
Positive.
Good.
I think most people agree. We really, I haven't seen any pushback. There's a couple of issues with the bill that we have to work through. And by the way, I just heard that somebody just filed a competing bill, right? And I have to tell you, this is what I would say to the people that are working on this. I don't care whether the bill has my name. I want child marriage to end in Florida. If it has somebody else's name, fine. I'll give it to you. It doesn't matter to me. I am for the children. I don't care whose name is on the bill. So if this other person wants to pass it, and they can because they're from the right party, I would say, here, have it. Just make sure it passes, please, okay? That's the person that I am. I am not married to this bill because so I'm gonna get the glory of passing this bill and it has my name on it and I can go rah, rah, rah. You know what? Justice and democracy come first. And that has to be the priority here is that we pass end child marriage in Florida. Yes.
Sorry. What do you think, like, we could actually do to change? Like you said, it's going to take a really long time, but if, there's more influence in public, like all this, like, what can we do?
I have some good ideas for you, actually. It seems daunting and overwhelming about what you can do to change things. But let's start with the fact that the younger the people are, the less likely they are to vote. So I would ask everyone here, are you registered to vote? Yes. And if you're registered to vote, are you voting in every election? Not presidential, because this is what happens. People go out every 4 years about president, and this one, Obama and Hillary and whatever. Okay. But then there's this all multitude of elections in between that nobody votes. So we have, in some of these municipal elections, 500 people deciding the fate of your county. I mean, how sad is that? And so what happens is those people that get this, it's something called building a bench. Building a bench means that you have to have people who start running for school board, for city commission, for county commission, for board of this and board of that. These things at different levels, because that's how you start going up and up and up and up. You can't get up one day and decide that you're going to run for Senate. It's not going to happen unless you're somebody who just inherited, like $1 billion and, and you have real good name recognition because your father was also a senator. It's not going to happen. Okay, for most people. So we need to build a bench, and we have failed miserably at building a bench. Okay, so building the bench, voting in every election. And by the way, I call it a trifecta. If everyone here in this room today lives today and ensures that you're going to get two people registered to vote, you've accomplished something. And then not only you're going to get them registered to vote, but you're going to make sure, hey, it's county election, come on, let's go, let's do it, right? So you're going to push people to stay engaged in the voting process. It's lack of voting that's really holding us back. By the way, electronic registration just passed in Florida. So you can register electronically. And then you have vote by mail, which you can do for 30 days before an election. If you register, you'll get the ballot in your house. And you don't have to do anything but fill it out. You don't even have to put a freaking stamp on it, okay? It's so easy. Then you have early voting, which is usually about a week or two, depending on the election, before election day. And then you have, voting in person the day of election. There's no excuse. There's no excuse why young people are only voting at like 18, 20% of the time.
Can you tell us a little bit about the law now, what it says about child marriage?
Yes.
And what we would like to change it to, and maybe some of the issues that might come up with that?
Absolutely, and I'll do that because this is them. It's going to be your charge to call. You say, what can we do? Then you start calling your representatives and say, this is a bill that's important to me, and we need to move it forward. So let's talk about some specifics of the issues regarding child marriage and why we filed HB 71. Florida is among the 25 states that have no required age minimum to be issued a marriage license. From 2000 through 2017, there were approximately 14,278 underage marriages in the state of Florida alone. 14,278. In the last 5 years, 2,180 marriage licenses have been issued to minors in this state. Of those issued, 1,702 were issued to girls. So you know what's going on here. 1,702. 2,180 marriage licenses, this is in only the last 5 years, have been issued to minors in the state. And of those, 1,702 were issued to girls. Florida statutes regarding age restrictions state that there is currently a lack of required minimum age enforcement. So the problem with the current law is that it says you have to be 16 to get married, except, and that herein lies the problem, is in the exceptions. And you could be married because you're pregnant, because your parents agreed to, because a judge orders it. So people find those loopholes, and that's how we end up with these statistics, right? So under the law, the exceptions I just talked about were, parental consent, judicial approval, and proof of pregnancy. So imagine that a 12-year-old that is pregnant. I mean, that would send a red flag to me immediately, right? And yet we are allowing this 12-year-old to get married. Our bill, House Bill 71, sets the minimum age to get married at 18, period. There are no exceptions in our current bill, none. Just now, and I'll talk about the consequences of early marriage, but think about a child that is not able to sign a lease, is not able to buy a house or a car. So legally, this person cannot sign any documents under the law of the state of Florida, but yet they can sign a marriage license. So how unfair is that, right? So when considering the legal implications of allowing minors to marry, please consider what I just said. Children wanting to, okay, this is a very important one. Children wanting to dissolve their marriage as minors cannot petition for divorce. So you can get married, but you can't get divorced because you're not legally allowed to petition for divorce. So you're stuck, right? Exactly. Since they are legally still children, those who escape or are run away are handed back to their parents. They married them off in the first place. So if you are, 15 and you were put into a forced marriage and you run away and the police picks you up, guess what they're gonna do? Bring you right back.
So there's nothing that would hold the parents accountable for all this?
Not under current law. I mean, unless somebody presents some evidence of abuse, and then, DCF will investigate.
You mean an 11-year-old pregnant girl is not evidence of abuse?
I know. So that should have been a red flag to that judge to say, wait a minute, wait. But it happens. Okay. In the State Department publication, the United States hypocritically condemned countries that allow child marriage as human rights offenses, right? How about Sharia law, where kids are married off, to strangers, and here we are protesting that, and here we are doing the same thing, right? Women who marry at 18 or younger face a 23% higher risk of heart attack, diabetes, cancer, and stroke than do women who marry between the ages of 19 and 25, partly because early marriage can lead to added stress and forfeited education. Women who wed before 18 are also at increased risk of developing various psychiatric disorders, even when controlling for social demographic factors. The stress, remember that these abusers are often very controlling people who will not let you have friends, will not let you have social life, will not let you be out there. So again, going back to those developmental milestones, these children are robbed of the natural progression of development that most people would have. In conclusion, children who have not yet reached the age of majority can easily be forced into marriage or trapped in an abusive marriage. They face significant legal and practical barriers if they are to leave their home, enter a domestic violence shelter, or retain an attorney, and file legal actions such as divorce. These marriages are often rooted in patriarchal beliefs that value girls less and confine them to the traditional roles of motherhood and domestic labor that perpetuates gender inequality.
What is the excuse when it comes to the argument
controlling environment because there's literally a 20-year-old who's preying on a child. So what is the argument there? Like, how is this even?
If you go back to the story of Sherry Johnson, what did she say? She said it was a very close, tight-knit religious community, and you just didn't talk about that. So, and that is a danger of some of those, you know, very closed religious communities that you really don't know what's going on. Remember Jeff Johnson, that case of the one that was marrying the 13-year-olds, you know, and he was doing it all on the claim of that he was the, you know, savior, pastor, whatever, you know. So, unfortunately.
I feel like that's like still like, okay, I know Christianity, you believe in not having a kid before you're married, but as far as like the kid's already pregnant, like, and making the kid go to someone, even though that person's like older, you know, they hurt your child, like, how is that still within your religion if you already know your kid has been like put in a dangerous situation and already pregnant? I feel like if you would think about that,
you know, we're not going to enter into the religious arguments today because that will take that will be like a 1-week seminar. So.
What is also the concept of separation of church and state, though? Because we can't be just doing these exceptions in our laws just for like a group of people that just think it's wrong. We just put it up for adoption, which is a lot better, at least for the child. They're not stuck in a relationship that damages them for the entire lifetime. So,
You want to speak to the freedom of religion?
yeah.
This nation was founded on the principle of separation of church and state, but what we have seen recently is the opposite. So again, I will encourage you to make sure you vote. Yes.
So the law lets pretty much, like, if I'm 20 years old and I have, like, well, if I'm a guy and I have sex and I get a 10-year-old pregnant, that's like not against the law.
Well, you know, we do see cases where people are charged with statutory rape. Hopefully we have in some of our more open communities, in some of our more progressive cities, people who do the right thing. And so we do see that. And we're not saying that every child that gets pregnant, it's a case of abuse, but the statistics don't lie. We still have thousands of them who are being forced into marriages. Yes.
And has there actually been like a case of the opposite, where like the adult is actually like doesn't want to, but they're actually like in trouble, forcing them because of religious beliefs, because sometimes that also happens. Have there been cases like that?
Let me see if I understood you. The cases of the family not wanting to do it but feeling forced because of their religion. I'm sure it happens.
Even though the person is adult, they are still adults and passing, so they're following the tradition that the family has. So that's more of a tradition kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm sure it's happening. We don't have real statistics, but yes.
those smaller elections you were talking about, what website will we be able to go on to follow that? Because I remember I don't know if it's real, but I saw something on Instagram saying that like when the Kardashians do something crazy, it's like a distraction from an election that's going on of a small bill. That's it. I don't know if that's true, but I just know that somebody said.
You know, I hate to say it, but these days anything's possible. It's all I can say. Anything's possible. So
They were just saying that.
you know, it's very simple. You have your voter registration card, right?
Mhm.
That tells you all the people that you need to know, okay? Because you cannot vote in somebody else's district. You can only vote for the people in your voter registration card. So use that as your as your tool. You know, it has your district, and then this I can tell you. There are many websites that says who are my elected representatives, and you just Google that, and you put in your address, and it tells you who's your senator, who's your congressman, who is your state senator, who's your state representative, who's your county commissioner, who's your city commissioner, who's your mayor. And so this is what I tell people: print that thing, put it on the refrigerator. Don't forget. Everybody here needs to know who their entire elected delegation is. And if you don't know,
Google it.
this is why we have a problem, people. This is why we have a problem.
Including judges.
Exactly. And
We just happened to elect somebody into the court whose campaign was funded by sex hotel money. By the way, yes.
yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Anything's possible.
Well, this is the problem that, you know what a partisan versus non-partisan election is, right? Partisan is you competing, there's a Republican and a Democrat or an independent competing. Non-partisan elections, technically there's no party involved, but you know that that's not true, right? And many of the lower level major, some commissions are non-partisan, but this is where you have to really research. And you can tell, by the way, a lot by who's giving people money, you know? Like,
and it is out there for
and
people
all
to
of that
find
is
out.
public information, by the way. There's a website you said that you pull the candidate and it tells you exactly who, name, address, date, amount, what that person was. You can tell exactly who gave me, wrote a check for my campaign. That's public information.
And can you as the person reject the money from, like you find out every single paycheck that comes to you, who is it from? And
But yes and no, and here lies the problem. The other problem. There's direct contributions, which is, for example, for my campaign as state representative, the maximum I can accept from any company or individual is $1,000, right? So technically, that's all I can get. However, there's what we call dark money. There are PACs, political action committees, and those are unlimited. Remember Citizens United? Those people can spend unlimited money on campaigns. So people focus on a lot on the, the $1,000 that I got from, I don't know, U.S. Sugar, and I'm like, yeah, they gave me $1,000, but they gave $350,000 to my Republican opponent. Like, who cares, That is, people are focusing, in my opinion, on the wrong thing here. You can't penalize candidates, especially Democrats, who have a hell of a time getting money for not accepting money, right? Because how are you going to run a campaign?
Right, but I mean, like, each candidate that runs for whatever they run for, so they get help from other people, the money to build their campaign, and then you as the candidate running, you get to find out where all the money's coming from, up to $1,000 only.
Correct.
And then other people that work for you collect the other money.
No, it's not that's not how it works. I don't touch that money. The candidate doesn't technically see that money. This is what they do. They run sort of like, the best way that I can explain is like parallel campaigns. What they do is they can run ads saying, Sandy is terrible. Sandy is, whatever, all the kind of crazy negative thing that they can come up with. That dark money is running that campaign. They're not saying vote for the other one or vote for this one. They're just running negative ads. So it's hard to figure out
Like who's giving what?
who. So that's what we're up against.
You'll see them say paid for by the whatever PAC.
Yeah, but they're paid for
So
other people.
a whole bunch of money gets put into those committees, and then those committees spend money on media and whatever, but it doesn't necessarily get approved by the candidate.
Right. If it doesn't say approved by, the AC Vice campaign, then it's not my money, it's not my ad. I have nothing to do with
And
that.
who administers all that money then?
PACs, political action committees.
So they know that the money that it's being contributed could be from like a hotel, sex, whatever.
Well, that's exactly what happened with the judge. She got $50,000 or something.
Right, like she had no idea that her money was coming from.
No, she knew, because the PAC was actually created by her family in the business. Yeah. She personally knew, but it's a separate.
But like it would be
organization. It's a
something like
separate
that, like somebody like that maybe doesn't know, and it's like money from sex or whatever.
It's possible to be both ways. Sometimes our candidates do know.
No, I know it's possible. I'm just saying who's administering it, because it's not your fault. It's who's collecting the money, and
I know. Yes.
Okay, you said earlier 500 people will vote and they come up with state representative or something. I don't know anything about laws. Well, obviously there's not a law because it happens, but you don't think that eventually there might be a bill passed where if not enough people vote, or a majority of the people don't vote, that person.
No, the way it works right now is 50 plus 1. Whatever candidate gets 50% plus 1 wins, even if it's 10 people voted. And the other problem we have is that many people don't vote because, oh, my vote doesn't count. Let me tell you something. They have been the representative. I was just with him in District 115. Anyways, I'll think of his name in a minute. He won by what, 13 votes? You know, that was the election where we had to have a recount. Because remember? Robert Asensio. That election had to go into a recount, and then it ended up that he won by 13 votes. Barbara Watson, a representative up in the Miami Spring areas, won by like 10 votes one time. So, yes, elections can be decided by one vote. So that one day that you choose not to go vote because, oh, it's raining, you know, you may have just tilted the scale of justice against your beliefs and the things that are important to you. So getting out every time in every election. So let's see. There's a proven pattern of domestic violence, poverty, and poor education in places that allow child marriage. These are all signs that this practice hinders the advancement of our society. Not only is child marriage morally wrong, this policy undermines economic productivity, threatens sustainable growth, fosters unhealthy conditions, and inequality for women. If successful, this legislation would end child marriage, and together we can start making changes to the future of our children. So I think we're going to be working our groups in figuring out these pieces of legislation and competing pieces of legislation and see what kind of agreements we can come up with. Again, my commitment is to pass child marriage legislation, whether it's mine or somebody else's. But I feel that we owe it to the children of Florida to stop that practice immediately that condemns many of our children to a life of poverty and inequality. So that's in a nutshell, but tell me if you want me to elaborate on any one specific subject.
I think it's really interesting some of the exceptions, the military exception, the idea of the freedom of religion. I think those are sticky, like kind of gray areas that become problems of it.
Oh, absolutely. That's why we're going for kind of like for broke 30s, 18. Because again, my point is, if you can't sign a lease for an apartment, you shouldn't be able to get married, right? Children are not just emotionally and developmentally prepared to make those kinds of decisions before the age of 18. Technically, I don't think until the age of 21, but hey, here we are. So I was elected to the Florida House of Representatives to be a voice of the people. I mean, I'm not one of those people who's getting all that money from,
No, if you are,
the dark packs or whatever, so I have run a campaign that basically is 50 by 50, 100, here and there. So, look forward to staying in the House and continuing to fight. It's not going to be easy because, again, people like me who have strong voices, tend to bring up a lot of reactions. But, remember, I'm a soldier. I served the United States Army. I know what it's like to be in a foxhole with a rifle and not taking a shower for 3 days. And, so I'm not afraid. And, I'm here for you. And I'm pretty accessible. You call me, I answer my phone. And I don't hide from people. I don't hide from my constituents like other people do. If you, call my office and try to make an appointment, you'll get one. Or anytime I get invited to something, I will come and give you my view. And I think that if we had more representatives like me, I think we would be in a better place. But, the House is nominated by those millionaires, and so.
Someone that you think is not fit?
Huh?
Can you report someone that you think is not fit?
No.
Only if you want to kill yourself.
It's just voting.
But you know what? Somebody, I was giving a talk to you. Have you guys read of Ruth List?
Freedom.
Okay, on your Google this afternoon when you get on your phone, Google Ruth List. Ruth List is the organization in Florida that helps women run for office. So if you're interested in running for office, they'll sit with you. And, it's not like they're going to come I mean, it's a complex issue, you know, where you live, what goals you have, what are your issues that you care about, what is your life plan? Do you have small children? Are you building a business? So depending on your particular situation, they'll help you map a political future that may be as early as the next election for county, for city commission, or it may be like a 10-year plan, you know, for what you're going to do in 10 years to position yourself to run for office. So, you know, Ruthless is an organization that helped me, you know, along the way to, you know, figure things out, because, you know, you go and run, you file the paperwork, and then you go like, what do I do now? Right? And I don't know how much time we have, but I can tell you the story of how I actually got into politics. It's actually pretty funny, but I think, what, you're for? Okay. So I had never been involved in politics. I have always been registered to vote and voted in every presidential election, which is most people, right? So every 4 years I went and voted and whatever. So in 2010, my daughter graduated from FIU. I'm an FIU mom. And so I thought, oh, well, you know, you know, I have a little time now. I can do maybe other things. So I decided to, and I went to the website of the Miami-Dade Democratic Party, because I've always been a registered Democrat, and signed up for, you know, newsletters and stuff. So when you do that, by the way, you start getting bombarded with emails about things and events and all that. So I get an invitation to an event for then Congressman Kendrick Meek. I don't know if anybody remembers him. So Congressman Meek had decided to run for Senate. And so I get this invitation to go to this fundraising event at this very prominent people's home, you know, and they have a lot of money. And I'm like, oh my God, I want to go. I want to go there. So I get the thing, and I'm reading, and I'm like, holy. The levels to go to this thing were like $2,700, $5,000, $10,000, and I'm like, I don't know. Imagine I'm like a single working parent, you know, carrying 2-3 jobs. Like, oh my God, you know, who has that kind of money? But for whatever reason, and don't ask me why, I actually called the number and I said, hey, listen, I would like to go to this event, but isn't there like a lower level, you know, like another? And she goes, well, actually, no, but what can you do? And I'm like, oh my God. And here I am thinking really, really hard, because, I mean, like what am I going to offer this woman that I can live with? So finally I said, $250? And that was like a lot for me. Yeah. And I said, $250? And she said, oh, okay, we'll take it. We'll put you on the list. And I'm like, oh my God, they put me on the list. Oh my God. To me, that was like, whoa, really? So, you know, it was like 2 weeks later, I got all dressed up, and I showed these people's home, and I'm like, oh my God. You know, people that I've seen on television, you know, people, you know, and I'm like, okay, I don't know anybody. I don't know anyone. But, you know, I'm a little bit social, so eventually I'm making small talk with different people, like, oh, you know, talk about education and all that. Well, apparently I was having such a great time that at some point I said, next door we're having it at my house. So about 2 weeks later, I get a call from Kendrick's campaign manager. He goes, you know, Ms. Baez, you said that you were, I'm like, what? No. Yes, you said that you would, and I'm like, yeah, I don't think so. Maybe, you know, maybe we misunderstood what I was trying to, maybe I just want to be more involved. And, no, you said that you were, and he was pretty insistent. And I'm like, no.
Yes.
I know. So finally I said, listen, my entire house fits in those people's living room. I can't do a fundraiser for a congressman. Because to me, my idea of a fundraiser was, you know, what you see on television, the big house, the media, the limos, you know, the whole thing, you know. And I said, I can't do a fundraiser. I live in a little house. I can't, you know. But he said something that changed my outlook on politics and has been my guiding principle since then. He said, well, that was a very nice event, and we're very grateful to that family, But the reality is that most of Kendrick's voters, constituents, don't live like that. So we need like normal people like you to open their homes to the candidate. And I thought, well, that makes total sense. I'm okay with that. I agree with that. But then I said, but I don't know anybody that can give that kind of money. I don't know anybody that can give $2,700 or $5,000. Who am I going to invite? And he said, well, what do you think your family, friends, people you know can give? I said, I don't know, $50, $100. And he said, oh, okay, well, we'll have a low dollar event. Now, I know what that means now as a candidate. It's like, oh, what, a low dollar event, like whatever. But hey, he agreed to it. I said, listen, if that's the agreement, then I will do it. So we set a date. It was like 2 weeks later. So I'm like, now I'm like, oh my God, what have I done? You know? So I went running to work the next day, and I'm like, quick, everybody, find $50. I need all of you to come to this thing because I'm having Congressman Mick to come to my house, and I need people. And they're like, what are you drinking? Like, are you crazy? What do you mean Congressman Mick is coming to your house? I said, yes, it's true. It really is. He's coming to my house. And they're like, what? So needless to say, 2 weeks later, my house was full of people. People who came up with, scraped what they could. I know of secretaries that borrowed money to come. Because for the first time in their lives, they were going to be on one-on-one with a congressman. Something that you only see on television, that you don't imagine that you're part of that thing, that world up there, So here he is in my living room, just walking around. People are just talking. And by the way, the only thing I could afford were like 2 Publix trays of like little sandwiches and stuff. I said, this is what we're gonna get because I don't have money to put a caterer event, So there we were, 2 Publix trays, $50, and he was a congressman talking to people. So I have always been very clear with my campaign team. We need to leave it at the ground level. Not that I don't love those $1,000 checks, they're great. But we've got to always have events that are $25, $50, $100. Because people, normal people, need to be encouraged and need to be given the opportunity to participate in the political process. So we can try to get out of where we are in politics today. So go back to your voter registration card. Find out who your representatives are. Find out if those are the people that you want or not. If they're not, find out who their opponents are. And please, make sure that you stay active, that you participate and you follow them, okay? The livelihood of many of our children depends on what people in this room will do after we leave here today. So,
and also, with regards to this particular bill, you can Google it, and you can find online the site that'll actually show you all of the details. This is the bill. These are the other bills that are related. You can find the text of the bill. You can find all the committees that it's on. From there, you can find the agenda for the meetings of the committees. You can find all your representatives that are on the committees. And so before January, right, that's kind of the pivotal point. We think that once it goes to the floor, that's the pivotal point to call everybody and say, hey, vote for this bill. We actually need people to call the representatives that are in these committees where this bill is supposedly being heard, okay? Because we want it to get through the committees.
right, so our goal here is not to get this bill heard in committee. So that call everyone that's in the chair of that committee and all the people that sit in that committee and say, this is important. I need for you help get this bill on the agenda.
Yeah.
So that's
And
what we
it's
are.
pretty easy to find the information. You just go, does anybody know off the top of their head what this website is for the bills?
It was like floridasenate.gov or something.
It's myfloridahouse.gov.
There you go, something like that.
And actually, you can just Google, whatever bills Florida, and it will.
And if you don't like to call, you literally go into the committee, it'll list everybody, you click on their names, you can click right through to the emails.
It will automatically send an email to that
So
representative.
you get on the website and it has all the list of all the people in the committee, and you call each one to tell them, my name is, I need you to pass this law.
When you open the bill itself, you know, the HB 71, you'll see assigned to these committees. It's
It's judicial, health, and I mean, there's yeah,
But
yeah.
you called them.
So
like the
then
ones
you
You
that are
can
listed.
do a variety of things. You can call, you can send them an email, you can write them a letter.
Right, but the point is that you participate in letting them
Absolutely.
know.
The more pressure they get, the more they see that people are behind this and people are upset and they want this bill to be heard.
Can I get the full bill name, so, or like, I can actually.
You just Google HB 71 Florida, I will give it to you.
HB 71.
And if not, there's my card. Call my office, we'll get it to you. I really thank you for your time and your attention. I'm looking forward to working this bill as hard as I can. I don't know if we have any more time for Q&A or.
We're here until 4. We have 10 minutes. Apparently, we have snacks and coffee, so we can.
We can mingle. You know,
Make it informal.
I'm actually so appreciative of places that I go that have food because like I can actually get to eat. Because I'm running from one place to another and it's hell. So thank you everyone. Thank you.
Produced by Academic Video Services within the Division of Information Technology at Florida International University.